Well, because I couldn't find any good information about this, I'll make a quick video for anybody else, since now I understand the process. So this was missing really bad. It was running right about a year ago, and it's been sitting for a while, and now now it's got a really bad miss at low idle, and it gets better the higher the idle you go. So I'm like, well, you know, maybe it's spark plug wires, or just needs a tune-up or something like that. So simple test, you know, back in the old days, you would just cut out cylinders and see the change in RPM. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4 on your cylinders, the car's running. Basically what I did was pull this first one out, because the spark plug is way down deep inside of here. So the nice thing is you really don't have to worry about getting shocked on these kind. So when I pulled it off and it was at idle, there was no change in the engine rev at all. I'm like, oh, well, that's not good. This one, there was a major change. This one, no change. This one, major change. So that's telling me that cylinder and that cylinder are not firing. Took the plug out, and so it's way down there. It's a 5/8 deep socket and spark plug socket to get it out with a rubber boot, because it's so deep, and my stupid boot was missing in my socket. So what I did after I figured it out is I just, you know, pushed this down on top and then pulled it out, had the spark plug in it, and then grounded it with a wire to here and started the vehicle, and I saw that I had spark. I'm like, okay, well, I have spark, so I guess that's a good sign. The second thing to check was the fuel injectors, and the fuel injectors are very, very simple to get to. There's just 2 screws on the top of it. You pull this connector off. They're in here upside down like this. So underneath, you just depress on the lever on the top, and you can hear kind of like an audible click in a way, and then you can wiggle it off and pull off the connector. And then pull the injector out, but you can do this test with it on too. And you just basically test the resistance on each one to see where they're at. So this one had like meg ohms of resistance, which is too much. This one had about 15 ohms. This one had meg ohms of resistance. And this one had about 15 ohms. So the 2 good ones had about 15 ohms. The other step I did before that too is I hooked up a Noid connector to this to make sure it was sparking. If you don't have a Noid connector, then I guess you can just skip this test, because it was just ended up being bad fuel injectors. So I got fuel injectors on ordered 2 of them, and when they come in, I'll install them and see if that fixes my problem. Okay, well, so here I am a few days later, and I ordered the injectors on Friday. Here it is Monday, and they are here. So I got them from Rock Auto. They're these Reman ones. They're like 25 bucks, made by Autoline. And basically the other ones, they were, when you ohm them out, I think they're around 15 ohms. The good news is, you know, I ohm checked this first one, and let's see where it goes. It takes a second for it to bounce up to where it's supposed to be, but that's around 12, so that should be good. And then I get the other one and do the same kind of process with it, where I clip on my little alligator connectors to the pins on the inside, and it bounces up and it goes really high, but not as high as the other ones. The other ones were like in the megs, but this is still really high, so I'm not super 100% confident that this is going to work, but I'm going to try it. So it's just really simple. There's just basically 2 screws holding in each injector. So there's just these little Phillip head screws over these caps. You just take them off and go wiggle it out after you take the connector off and put the new one in. So that's what's coming up next. I'll do one at a time and test them and see if they're working or not. Okay, so I've got 3 of the injectors replaced. The other one I'm just going to send back. So this is the one I replaced. Pull it out. Noticeable difference in revs now, whereas before there was no change. This one's still bad. It's also where that noise is coming from. So I'm pretty confident that once I change out that injector too, that noise will stop, and hopefully this car will be running well after that. Okay, so here we are. Got the replacement fuel injector and ohming it out. Look at that. It's between 10 and 15, so it looks like it's working perfectly. Way better than over the 200 that I had with it last time. The one thing that's weird about it too is it comes with this extra damn gasket. So this gasket does not come or is not needed for this application. Maybe it is for another one, who knows? You know, I'm sure that's the reason why, but make sure you take off this gasket if you're putting it in the Nissan, as they say over in the UK. So this one looks like it'll work now, so let me swap it out and see if it runs inside the vehicle. Okay, so I guess I could demonstrate, you know, push the little clip in the back, and you'll actually hear like a little clip, or a little click, and then you can pull this straight out. So you push on this back part to make the lever in the front come up. Then you just have these two screws. This plastic hose is in the way for the valve, for the regulator valve, so you can just pull it off to get out of the way, because I keep knocking it and bending it around. So I'm just going to pull this hose off, take these two screws out, and remove it. Alright, here's the new injector installed. Just make sure you push it in until it's flush. Oh man, it looks like it bounced out a little tiny bit. Okay, so I have to push that in a little bit more. Put some oil on the rings and then push it down in there. What I did want you to notice, and twist it as you're doing it, what I didn't want you to see is this little ring on the top, this thing that looks like a washer right there. Usually when you pull it out, it's stuck to the top of these things, but it fell off. So just make sure as you're pulling out the old injector that maybe you get that off first with a magnet, or put a little screwdriver in that notch to pull it out. And then make sure you have it there when you reassemble it, because you do need that little washer. Okay, here it is, reassembled. Now when I pull this wire, see, and the noise even comes back. There we go. Throttle response. Oh, so much better. Oh, yay. Okay, so I think I got this car lit. Okay, so one thing I want to tell you while the engine's not running is, now I got it all put back together and everything's running. You know, I removed these screws, this one and this one. I'm just going to make sure I put Loctite back on them, because I'm pretty sure they had a type of Loctite when I took them off, because the engine's going to be rattling. You don't want these screws to back out. So just put a couple drops of blue Loctite on these screws and any other screw that you may have removed, and you should be golden.